Hey, no, what's up? What's up? Um, we're back doing Code Katas. Let's go ahead and jump into it. We are on Does My Number Look Big in This? So what it wants us to do, it says a narcissistic number is a positive number which is the sum of its own digits, each raised to the power of the number of digits in the given base. For example, take 153. Since there's three digits, we're going to take it to the third power. So 1 to the third power plus 5 to the third power plus 3 to the third power ends up equaling 153. So that's a narcissistic number. The challenge: your code must return true or false depending on whether the given number is a narcissistic number in a base 10. We don't need to check for any other values besides an integer. Cool. Open it up in VS Code. Bring in our title. Our function. And let's grab our test. See what these tests look like. So it gives us 2 tests. It's cool. Let's grab our second test. So it's telling us that we're gonna have to deal with some pretty big numbers. Okay, so these need to be logs. Start up Quokka. So what I think we're gonna do right now, we're getting undefined return. That's cool. What we want to get returned is true. So we're gonna need to take our number. We're gonna need to split it up into individual numbers. And then we need a place to keep track of those numbers once we have sent them to whatever power they need to be at. And then we need to sum all those values. So let's let what should we call this? We'll just call it numbers, and that'll equal an empty array. And then we need to split. Oh, we also need to let our value. We're gonna let our value equal our value to string. Turn it into a string, and then we need to split it like that. And if we log our value, you see that we get each individual number now, which is what we need. So let's go ahead and loop through our value, and we'll take each number and put it to the power of however many numbers there are in our number. So we'll go ahead and say, and we want I to be value dot, while I is less than value dot length. We want to increment, and we want to say, let's let let num equal our value at index, and then we'll say numbers.push. We want to push to our numbers array here, and we want to push. What we want to push is our we want to say math.pal, and we want to start with our num, and we want to put it to the power of our value.length. Like that. And then all we need to do, if we log our numbers now, we'll see that we have all the squared, I mean not squared, but all our numbers put to the power of. So 371. So 3 to the power of 3 is 27. 7 to the power of 3 is 343. 1 to the power of 3 is, of course, 1. So now what we need to do is we need to return our numbers, but we need to reduce them because we want to sum them. And that'll take in our accumulator and our num. And we want to say our accumulator, and we really didn't need to break this down like this. We'd say our accumulator plus equals our num, but we need to make our num is a string right now. We need to turn it into a number, so we can do that with a plus sign. And then we want to do it down to, and we actually don't need our curly brackets. We want to do it down to 0. Oh, we want to return true or false. Oh, right. Okay. For some reason, I thought we were summing it. So we actually need to keep our original value because we need to compare it to this value. So we're going to call this split value because if we are splitting the number. And we need where else do we need to change? This needs to be split value. And this can be split value. And this needs to be split value. And if we say if this is equal to value, and that'll give us a true or false value. If this is equal to value, then it will return true, and if it's not, then it will return false. So you see here we're getting true. So that works. So let's put it in Code Wars, see what happens. Let's test it. And let's attempt it. Cool. So all of our tests passed. So let's go ahead and check out everybody else's answers. Okay. So what they do? They turned the value into a string. They split it. They reduced it. Math.pal took in the index, or no, the number, and they took the length. And that, yeah, that will return a true or false value. Cool. All right, let's do our next one. Is a number prime? We need to define a function that takes an integer argument and returns a logical value true or false depending on if the integer is prime. Per Wikipedia, a prime number or a prime is a natural number greater than 1 that has no positive divisors other than 1 and itself. It says that we can assume that we'll be given an integer. You cannot assume the integer will only be positive. You may be given negative numbers. Note on performance. There are no fancy optimizations required, but still the most trivial solutions might time out. So they're saying we'll get some pretty big numbers, so we can't just loop through. We need to have a more performant solution. Cool. Let's go ahead and save this one, the one we did before, get rid of it. Title in here. Grab our function. And grab our test. We got a lot of tests. We'll just grab our basic test here. So you can see we're getting undefined return. What we need to get returned is a true or false value if the number is prime or not. So I think what we need to do is we're going to need to have a for loop. We're going to need to say, we're going to say for, and we're going to need to store two values in here. We're going to have our index. That'll equal 2 because we don't need to worry about 1. And this needs to be let I equal 2. And then we need to, we want to have our square root of our number. So what we want to do is we're going to have another variable in here called s square root. And it'll be math square root. And we want the square root of our num. So we'll go ahead and store that. And then we want, while our index is less than or equal to our square root, then we want to increment. Right? What are we missing? Oh, this needs to be a comma. Cool. And then we need to say if our num we want to get the remainder against our index. If that's equal to 0, then we know it's not prime. So we want to return false. Then we want to say will return, it will return if our num is greater than 1. And that'll return a true or false value. So now you can see we're getting false, 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 true, 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 false, false. Cool. So let's see if Code Wars digs it. Let's test it. Passed. Nice. Look how many tests there were. Over 1,000. All right, cool. So let's submit it. Check out everybody else's answers. Okay. So they said if num is less than 2, return false. The limit is the square root. They're looped through, so they did the same thing. We just stored our limit inside of our for loop. Cool. Number of people on the bus. There's a bus moving in the city. It takes and drops some people at each bus stop. You are provided with a list of integer arrays or tuples. Each integer array has 2 items, which represent the number of people that got onto the bus, which is the first item, and the number of people that got off of the bus, which is the second item. Our task is to return the number of people who are still on the bus after the last bus station. Even though it's the last bus stop, the bus is not empty, and some people are still on the bus. Cool. So let's bring it down locally, and then we'll take a look at the test and see how we're going to go about this. From what it sounds like, it's going to be an array of arrays with 2 values in each. Let's bring our title in. Let's also save this last one we did, and let's get rid of it. So let's go ahead and take a look at our test. And so, yeah, exactly. So we're getting an array with many arrays in it. The first value here is the people getting on the getting on the bus. Yep. So the first number is people getting onto the bus. Second number is people getting off. So let's go ahead and grab our function. And grab our test. Okay, cool. So you can see we're getting undefined return now. Eventually what we need to return is the number of people that are going to be left on the bus after our last bus stop. So we're gonna have a variable called people on bus. We're gonna start that out at 0. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna loop through our array, look at each array. We'll add the first number to people on the bus, and we'll subtract the second number from people on bus. And we'll do that for each array, and then eventually we'll have the remainder. So let's go ahead and loop. That's not what I wanted. go. And we want to say bus stops dot length. We'll let stop equal bus stops at index. And we'll say people on the bus plus equals stops at 0. So our stops right now is just each individual array. And so stops at 0 takes our first number. So we're going to add our first number. We're going to say plus equals 0. And then we're going to say people on the bus minus equal stops at 1. And that will subtract our second number. So then all we need to do is return people on the bus. And as you can see, 5, 5, 17, 17, 21, 21. So it's working. Cool. Let's test it. Cool. Let's attempt. So all our tests pass. Let's submit, see what everybody else did. Okay, so this is a pretty good answer right here. They just took the bus stops, they reduced it, they destructured the numbers. So this is the people getting on, the people getting off. That takes our two values, and then we add them all up. We reduce it down. So this is what we did. They use the reduce. Cool. One more, maybe? This is a 5Q, so should be a little bit harder, so maybe we won't do it tonight, but we need to write an algorithm that takes an array and moves all the zeros to the ends, preserving the order of the other elements. We could sort them, but we don't want to. No, we don't want to do that. We could loop through, and we could say if the element that we're looking at currently is not equal to 0, then to just put it back in the array. If it is equal to 0, put it at the ends. But then we need to splice, if it's not equal to 0, we're going to need to splice it in at the right point. Because if we add it to the array as we look at it, it'll add it after the 0. So we have to splice it in at the array.length minus however many zeros we have. I don't know. We'll figure it out next time. We'll save this one for next time. But thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you have a good night. Peace.